Now I want to go down a list, and I made this. I was on the plane yesterday going to Michigan to speak to the business people in Michigan, the Economic Forum in Michigan, and I heard the president give his little talk about gay marriage, which I don't even understand. What is he coming out for? I mean, if he wanted to stand for gay marriage, he would introduce a bill. That's what he would do. He would introduce a bill, and he would push it through Congress, and he'd say, we need to stand for gay marriage. That's what you do when you're the leader of the free world. But that's not what he's doing. He's not even standing firmly in defense of gay marriage. He's saying, I personally think, but if you think differently, that's totally cool, and the state should decide. It's amazing. And the reason why I started making this list is because the reason he said yesterday he's changed his mind is because he's discovered that his Christian faith demands it. Oh, okay. All right. His Christian faith demands it. But he said just 2 years ago that his Christian faith demands that he not support gay marriage. I'm trying to figure out which one is it here. And what has changed in your Christian faith? Who in Christianity has influenced you? What are you reading? Where was this change? He said he talked to his wife and his children, and he sees some gay employees there in the White House that are in committed, loving relationships. That has nothing to do with Christianity. He's using his faith both ways. So I started on the plane, and I thought, who knows a guy like this? And I just jotted a few of these things down, and I just want you to ask yourself, this is the guy who is our representative. He's the guy that, a lot of people are electing him because they're like, I think he's a nice guy. I think he seems like a great guy. I like hanging out with him. He seems like a nice man. I mean, he might be a nice man. But you've hired him to represent you. I'm very careful on the people who go out and represent me because they are a reflection of me. And if people are walking, this person walks in and represents me and they leave and they're like, well, that guy's a scumbag. He's a foul-mouthed, shady kind of character. What does it say about me? So I don't hire people like that.
Except Jeffy, obviously.
Jeffy, yeah. I don't put him out in the public.
No,
represent me.
That's true. That's a good point.
You don't hire people like that. Well, this is your hired representative. This is the guy that we all say is like us. We don't necessarily agree with him on everything. We don't have to. But he's like us. Okay. I want you to ask this question of your friends. Are you like him? Do you know anyone in your own personal life like him? Anyone?
You mean color of skin? Is that what you're getting at?
Here it is. Listen to these. Let's just say, I'm going to go down this list. Let's see if you can, out of this whole list, if you can say, yes, I have a friend who is just like that on 3 of these. I think there's 20 of them. Reagan said we can come to agreements if we have 7 out of 10. I just want 3 out of 20. Are you personally, or can you name a friend or a relative, anyone that has 3 of these? That are the kind of, they have the understanding and gained their understanding of Jesus Christ and defend it. And they got that understanding from someone like Jeremiah Wright. You have a friend? You know anybody like that? Do you know personally anyone who is a good Christian that believes there is no salvation unless there's collective salvation? Do you believe that? Or do you know anyone who does? Do you know somebody who was raised and or mentored by communists? I know one, David Horowitz. Do you have friends or acquaintances that are Marxist, communists, or have been actively engaged in the overthrow of the United States government? Have you ever been at a party celebrating someone who has been accused of domestic terrorism? Have you ever been to a party and gave a toast to someone who is accused of being a Muslim terrorist? Do you or any of your friends have the belief that terrorism doesn't really exist? That by definition, jihad is only a holy struggle?
The president's strategy is absolutely clear about the threat we face. Our enemy is not terrorism, because terrorism is but a tactic. Our enemy is not terror, because terror is a state of mind. And as Americans, we refuse to live in fear. Nor do we describe our enemy as jihadists or Islamists, because jihad is a holy struggle, a legitimate tenet of Islam, meaning to purify oneself or one's community.
Do you have any friends that believe that? How many have you or how many of your friends have hired members of the Muslim Brotherhood to provide security for your business or their business? How many of your friends would hire members of the Muslim Brotherhood to go through and put together your security for your town? Do you have any friends that would do that? Do you have any friends that believe the Muslim Brotherhood is largely secular and good?
A very heterogeneous group, largely secular, which has eschewed violence and has decried al-Qaeda.
Do you know anybody that thinks NASA's foremost goal should be Muslim outreach so you can help them and NASA can help them feel good?
Before I became the NASA administrator, he charged me with 3 things. One was he wanted me to help re-inspire children to want to get into science and math. He wanted me to expand our international relationships. And third, and perhaps foremost, he wanted me to find a way to reach out to the Muslim world and engage much more with dominantly Muslim nations to help them feel good about their historic...
Do you know anybody who believes that Occupy Wall Street features the best people in our country right now?
And I would love to hear some of these Republicans who are attacking these struggling people and young people and calling them divisive say something about this kind of despicable attack on the best people in our country right now.
Is it even conceivable that anyone you know or associate with would think that killing Osama bin Laden was a tough decision?
Intelligence reports locating Osama bin Laden were promising, but inconclusive, and there was internal debate as to what the president should do.
The entire national security apparatus was in that room, and the president turns to every principal in the room. What do you recommend I do? And they say, it's a close call, Mr. President. As he walked out the room, it dawned on me, he's all alone. This is his decision.
He took the harder and the more honorable path.
Oh, do you have a single friend who, in that case, would make sure that we have a blame someone else memo ready just in case it went wrong? Do you have anybody in your circle of friends or your circle of influence that believes America and Israel is the biggest obstacle to peace and stability in the world? Do you know anyone who believes the United States Constitution needs to be a photo negative to be right with the world today?
That generally the Constitution is a charter of negative liberties, says what the states can't do to you, says what the federal government can't do to you, but it doesn't say what the federal government or the state government must do on your behalf.
Would you, or anyone you know, take a gift given to the United States after 9/11, a bust of Winston Churchill, and try to give it back to the prime minister on your first meeting. And when he says, no, that's a gift, you can keep it. Would you or anyone in your circle of influence, anybody that you know, any of your friends, would then take that bust, box it up, and ship it back yourself and say, we don't need it anymore? Do you know anyone, a single person, who has a wife or a husband that has never been proud of the United States of America until something good happened in their life?
Let me tell you something. For the first time in my adult life, I am proud of my country.
Do you know anybody who would actively defend allowing a baby to die without treatment in a hospital if an abortion failed? That the baby would be born outside, the doctors would have it, and they would be allowed to put it in a closet and just let it die. Anyone? Would someone in your life withhold needed money from poor countries or suggest that needed money from poor countries was withheld unless they changed the Constitution to be pro-abortion? Do you know somebody who was anti-gay marriage 3 years ago, and is now starting to say he's a crusader for gay marriage as an election nears? You know a single person who's made that flop because of their Christian faith in 3 years? Do you know anybody who believes the only way out of debt is to spend $5 trillion in 3.5 years? Do you know anybody that believes Solyndra and other green businesses were a good bet and that the people's hard-earned money is something you should gamble with and you think that it should continue? How many people do you know personally that would give a shout-out to someone to say, hey, I just want to say hi to Bob over there and thank Bob. It's been a great day, Bob, before you had to announce to the country that 13 soldiers were murdered by an Islamic extremist on our own soil?
I hear that Dr. Joe Medicine Crow was around, and so I want to give a shout-out to that Congressional Medal of Honor winner. Good to see you.
Do you know anybody who claims to be a huge Israeli supporter? Do you know anybody who says, I'm the biggest fan of Israel? They're our biggest and strongest ally, and I'm a huge supporter. I'm the best thing that has happened. That when the prime minister of that country flew from the other side of the globe to have a scheduled dinner with you, you would humiliate him and blow off dinner. Let him eat alone while you had a quiet dinner someplace else with friends. Do you know anybody who says, I am the biggest supporter of Israel, and then visited all of the Muslim countries around Israel, but couldn't find the time to go to Israel? And that is Israel's biggest, most loyal supporter, but believes they should go back to the indefensible 67 borders? I understand it if you're not a fan of Israel, but if you're a fan of Israel, do you know a soul that is a true fan of Israel that says, yes, go back to the 67 borders?
The United States believes that negotiations should result in two states with permanent Palestinian borders with Israel, Jordan, and Egypt, and permanent Israeli borders with Palestine. We believe the borders of Israel and Palestine should be based on the 1967 lines.
Do you know any committed capitalist who believes in redistribution of wealth?
I think when you spread the wealth around, it's good for everybody.
Here's the deal. I don't think you know anybody. Your representation, the guy you're saying represents you and what you believe, will stand up for you and what you believe, has nothing in common with you. You don't even know a person like this. My guess is you don't know anybody who has any of these, let alone 3, 5, 7 out of 10. All of these are firmly held beliefs by Barack Obama and those he has put directly around him, in his cabinet and his advisors. And we haven't even begun to scratch the surface. Join me tonight at 5 o'clock, gbtv.com.